As promised, we'll make some mead today. I'll put the link to this recipe. These are just my Cliff's notes in the description so you can follow that and give the guy credit. This is just the Joe's Ancient Orange mix that, in my opinion at least, everybody should start with because it's easy as shit. I've done 4 batches so far and haven't roached any of them, but as the recipe says, we'll need 3.5 pounds of honey. I just weigh it backwards. I'll show you that in a second. 2 cloves. I go with 2 cloves, cinnamon stick, handful of raisins. There's the orange we'll cut up, and the dirty stuff, right? Next step will be, since I can make the 1 gallon and it doesn't get all screwed up, it's come out great every single time. After about 30 days, the stuff really tastes good for what it is. So I want to get a 3 gallon instead of the 1 gallon. Do bigger batches of this and then start using the 1 gallon to, air quotes, do it the right way. Get some actual mead yeast, get some better equipment, try some different styles out instead of just this, while maintaining this as a backup that just works. In other news, I got the water a little too hot. Now the bread yeast, you really shouldn't give it much more than 130 Fahrenheit. But the honey, on the other hand, can handle this heat. It doesn't mess the sugar up at all. It helps that the wife has a candy thermometer for her hobbies. So we're going to go ahead and mix the honey in now, get it nice and dissolved, pour that into the 1 gallon, add our ingredients, and we'll show you where I set it. Okay, so with the honey, let's turn my buddy on. And I put on, then zero it. Come on, no. There we go. And we want 3.5 pounds total, so we'll just work backwards, 1 bottle at a time, and keep track of where we're at. Yeah, don't use the little spout they have on the lid or you want to tear your hair out. You don't need to try to get every last drop out because you can set this upside down afterwards and I'll add it to this container however much we don't use. So minus 1.5 pounds ish. So we need, if I could add, what did that say? 3.5 pounds. So 2 pounds left. What do you mean E? What the hell is E? Yeah, it's 2 pounds to go. This is a 5 pound container. 1 pound 2 ounce. I guess we go to 1 pound 15 ounces and 1/4 if we wanted to be exact. That might have been too much. Yeah, a couple ounces over. Yeah, we'll survive. Okay, so starting to cool down a little bit, but you can still see a bunch of honey down there on the bottom. Just stir it for a little while to get everything in there. Oh, and I used 2.5 quarts of water to start. So we'll end up pouring this in the jug, add all our ingredients, add our yeast, then we'll add some water to top it off and then shake the snot out of it and it should be good to go. Let it sit in the basin for 2 months and then bottle it. Okay, everything's stirred up, it's mixed nice. Looks like, yeah, we're down to, we're below 130. We can do anything we want now. So here's my setup to transfer. It's pretty easy to pour into this big Pyrex. It doesn't make too big of a mess. And with it mixed with the water, it's relatively easy to clean up after the fact if you do splash a little bit. Then I just roll the funnel on over, put it in the sink in case I make a mess. And just keep topping this thing off. Only takes 3 trips, but it'll be nice to have the 3 gallon run it'll have a wide mouth on top. I'll just be able to pour directly into it. I won't have to get the oranges out with pliers, that kind of thing. Okay, so final steps. Try to do it one-handed. We have what looks like horse pop, but it's honey water, essentially. Add that yeast in, because it's a low enough temperature we can. Stick of cinnamon. 2 cloves. Got a friend that hates those things. Bunch of raisins. Yeah. And then oranges, which look kind of like blood oranges, but they're in the navel section, so I gotta imagine that the grocery store wouldn't lie to me. But we'll find out if it tastes funny. But these can make a heck of a mess pushing them in, and they're even more fun to get back out. But it works, so I'll spare you the pain of having to watch the rest of these. As much fun as it is. Well, we'll get a close-up. Now, another thing to note is don't use old yeast. See, this one's good until November of this year, and now that it's open, I'm not going to bother keeping any of that. Stuff's so cheap. Don't use old yeast or it won't work. And then at the end, like in his directions, you want to top off about 3 inches from the top, which I just go about halfway up that slope, and about there, and I haven't had any issues. Okay, last step is to get your stopper set up. I clean these every time, but you just put water in it, and when it hits the max line, you stop. And you just slap the thing on the top. They seal pretty well. You don't need to be super forceful with them. And you can see it'll displace a little bit just from pushing it down. And we'll check on it well, probably this afternoon it'll be bubbling, but in a couple days it'll be bubbling. I'll take it downstairs. Okay, some basement stuff. Some silicone hose. So this guy will just sit there in the corner in the dark for 2 months. You don't have to rack it. You don't have to do anything. Once it's finished, put it in bottles and you're good to go. Here's the ones I haven't had yet. I'm getting 4 of these out of each batch so far, but I'm going to run out of those bottles soon. Use the ones my friend Grant gave me, and I'm just marking their whatever date they were bottled. So that one was just before Christmas. These were back in March. Like I said, about 30 days later, they taste great. So this one should be pretty exciting to try because it's going on 90 days. And then these will hit 30 days in a couple weeks here, and they'll be good. Oh, and then this workbench, I'm going to repurpose, because right now it doesn't do anything but hold stuff. Up here, a little higher, maybe like this level, I want to make a shelf big enough for the carboys, like the 3 gallon, the 1 gallon, so they can just sit up here instead of over on the other shelf. And then I don't have to touch them. When they're ready to bottle, I'll line bottles up down here on a nicer surface with a nicer siphon and be able to just go down the line by myself.